Supply Chain Fortification, Safeguarding the Cyber Resilience of the Global Supply Chain. Opening remarks. Amin al-Nasser, President and CEO, Saudi Aramco. Dr. Saad Alaboodi, Chief Executive Officer, Saudi Information Technology Company, Site. Christoph Belasio, SVP, Cybersecurity and Product Security, Global CISO and CPSO, Schneider Electric. Michael Ruiz, VP, GM, Cyber Innovation, Honeywell Connected Enterprise, HCE. Ryan Chelkut, Moderator, Master of Ceremonies, former Bloomberg, CNN, CBS, PBS, and Fox News.
Well, good morning again. You don't need me to tell you that the importance of securing the global supply chains and global supply chains in the context of our digitized world is of unparalleled importance. It's actually quite easy to understand how one problem at one link in what have become and are even increasingly becoming extraordinarily long and complicated supply chains can have devastating consequences down the road. So in the next 35 minutes, we are going to delve into the vulnerabilities in global supply chains, and because we're at the Global Cybersecurity Forum and we're focused on how to collaborate and solve problems, how we do that. We have some extraordinary panelists for this conversation. Let me begin with CEO of Site, Dr. Saad Alaboodi. Thank you very much. Michael Ruiz, Vice President and General Manager for Cyber Innovation at Honeywell. And Schneider's Christoph Belasio, in charge of cyber and product security. Thank you all for joining us. Michael, if I could start with you. Obviously, we're here to talk about how we increase the resilience of global supply chains in the context of our increasingly digitized world. So set the stage for us. How big of a problem, how dangerous is the situation we're in today in the world when it comes to that job?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge problem today. When I think about this, I tend to think about it in two major buckets. Nation-state bad actors that are looking to move a political agenda, and cyber criminals. As we've done surveys in this area, 93% of cybersecurity experts today and 86% of business leaders that were surveyed believe that we were, because of the geopolitical instability in the world today, that we're on the precipice of a major cybersecurity supply chain disruption within the next 2 years. And we need to do something in order to be able to protect those supply chains.
Extraordinary. Christoph, I want to come to you, but before I do that, let's just do a sound check. How can everyone hear in the room? At the back of the room, are you hearing okay? Everyone hearing all right? Fantastic. So we shall continue. Okay, so Christoph, let's put that problem in the context of global supply chains. Obviously extraordinary that we have near unanimity in the cybersecurity community that we're staring down the barrel of a very big gun, and we're looking at a major disruption in the next couple of years. So what does that look like in the context of global supply chains, and what other vulnerabilities should we be on the lookout for?
So if you think about, let's say, critical infrastructure, or maybe energy sector more particularly, so there is massive transformation and mega trends. So first, this is becoming increasingly decentralized. So think about it, every home, every building can produce its own energy. Think about it, any car will charge itself to get electric. So decentralization is a big trend. The second one is digitization. So everything is becoming smart. Smart buildings, smart cars, smart factories. So this connectivity to get data, to get intelligence is really also transforming the landscape. And really the third one is our sustainability agenda to attack climate change is pushing for decarbonization as well. So these three mega trends is really pushing us to connect everywhere, to have data for more intelligence, and it's creating a major attack surface with a lot of open doors for attackers in very systemic approach with cascading effects, with cascading risk. So this is really pushing an agenda for more pressure for critical infrastructure there, and these are the critical infrastructure at risk.
Thank you. Saad, if I might turn to you. So we've heard a little bit about the future and the trajectory. To what extent are disruptions of the global supply chain in the cyber context already an issue?
Well, thank you, Ryan. It's great to reconnect with our friends, partners, and guests from all over the world here in Riyadh again as part of the GCF. If we look at the recent years, I believe the world has gone through different scenarios of multiple hits that are impacting the global supply chain in one way or another. Starting with the targeted attack on the global energy supplies. One famous attack was the Shamoon attack, targeting the IT infrastructure of Aramco in 2012. This was followed by another attack targeting the OT infrastructure of Aramco on Rab facility in 2017. And another hit, which was employing the emerging technologies, in particular drones, targeting the energy supply in 2019 for the facilities of GEG and Khurais. So if you look at these three attacks, they're targeting the global energy supplies from IT to OT to the emerging technologies. Another category of hits is coming from different industry, from the healthcare. Well, we've seen how COVID-19 in early 2020 propagated in a way that never been anticipated, impacting all other industries, not only the healthcare, and impacting both ends of the spectrum of the supply chain, the supplier or the manufacturing and the consumers as well. And another hit in the same year, which was the targeted attacks on the IT supply chain. The solar ones in 2020 was a famous one. Putting more than 30,000 of entities from both public and private globally in all industries at risk of data exposure, with more than 18,000 entities confirmed to have installed the malware. And then after that, the fourth category can be the economical slowdown that we have seen over the past 3 years. It's impacting, in particular, the production and the supply of goods. And the last hit is the unfortunate scene that we see in the geopolitics today. So all these different hits, and in the aftermath of all these issues is the adverse social impact, especially on our young generations. So I believe if we look at all these hits, they are, in a way or other, either the cause or the consequence of the global supply chain issues. And that means that the global community needs to do something much more, something better when it comes to sharing and charting the priorities. I believe the announcement that was done today for establishing the GCF Institute Center of Excellence for addressing the challenges of the OT technologies is a very important move, because the OT technologies today they exist in all the critical grids of the global supply chain.
Very interesting. Thank you very much for that. Michael, I have two quick questions for you. First off, if you could expand on your initial comment there where you told us that the global cybersecurity community is pretty convinced we're going to get an attack very soon, and you said that when you think about cybersecurity, you think about two different entities, individuals and nation states. I guess, and maybe everyone here in the room would agree with this, that when we talk about this, the bigger danger out of those two groups is nation states. Is that right?
Look, I think that when we think about this problem, I mean, nation states are absolutely, the more dangerous or concerning component, because they have a significant resources that they can bring to bear to prosecute their missions and to accomplish what they want to do. But we're also seeing cyber criminal organizations that are starting to collect. So cyber criminals are no longer individuals. They're really conglomerations or consortiums of bad actors working together. And these are not mutually exclusive groups. In a lot of cases, we'll start to see nation states also act like cyber criminals, in that they're looking to be able to create funds, increase their war chest in order to be able to go after larger targets.
And we heard Saad there give us some great examples of attacks that we've already seen. I wanted to ask you, in the context of security of energy supply, I immediately thought in the United States of the Colonial Pipeline, which was cyber disrupted a few years back. What does that incident tell us about the threats? Was that an issue of operational technology and interruption of that?
Yeah, I think when we look at things like Colonial Pipeline, what we see really are IT systems that are being affected at this point. We still haven't seen any major significant OT cybersecurity threat. But imagine the difference between being able to shut off a billing system that shuts off a pipeline and creates disruption versus actually going ahead and trying to weaponize that system. Shutting off a pump at one location or a valve at one location, increasing pressure, and now having a pipeline explosion that becomes both an environmental catastrophe as well as a supply chain disruption is a huge problem that we need to really be thinking about. And OT cybersecurity systems today, by and large, are way behind from a cybersecurity perspective than their IT counterparts. The level of maturity just isn't there. One alarming statistic that I've seen is that in OT networks, an intruder will spend 200 days observing the network before taking any action. Imagine a situation in an IT network where we would have a bad actor working for unobstructed in an IT network for 200 days. That would be unconscionable to us today, but that is what we're seeing in the OT cyberspace.
Extraordinary. And Saad, it was so interesting to hear about the Center of Excellence that the Institute is going to be running, which will really be a leader when it comes to providing the newest operational technologies. Christophe, if I could turn to you, since we're now on to the subject of emerging technologies, how do you see emerging technologies reshaping the dynamics of the global supply chain and operational technology cybersecurity?
So here, it's about connecting assets. At the end of the day, it's making assets under visibility, speaking about data, speaking about intelligence for operational efficiency, for more automation, for a sustainable agenda. So here, it's not only an OT space or an IT space, and I don't like to oppose the two, because at the end of the day, in an operational environment, you have both OT and IT in the same environment. So it's connected to the cloud, the intelligence is at the edge, but sending data to the cloud to get some insight, analytics, predictive maintenance, efficiency. And here, that creates really a gap, and I'm happy that we have initiative to bridge this gap in terms of skills, because we need people in charge of cyber, but also in charge of the operational environment. And this attack, like Saad was mentioning, is just becoming kinetics, becoming physical, that push every government, every nation to protect its citizen and critical infrastructure with a national security strategy. So these emerging technologies are a great opportunity for more visibility on every asset that we want to talk to data and to the cloud. But at the same time, is bringing some challenges, both in terms of exposure. It means that we need to have an operational excellence there, and we need to have a human-centric approach in this operational environment with the right skills to be able to manage them. And that's really the challenge that we have.
So Christophe makes a great point. We need to think of IT and OT at the same time, and the convergence of the two. That's what success looks like at the end of the day. However, OT environments today are fundamentally different. They work on a different model. If I have a petrochemical plant, I can't just reboot it if I have a problem. I can't isolate a network. I'm in the middle of a control process and I have to go through it. I have to maintain accessibility to all of the control systems. And so therefore, the problems in OT and IT are somewhat different in how you can resolve them or find resolution to them. But we do need to find that convergence between the two spaces and be able to take the best practices from both environments, bring them together. But I think that we still have the challenge that OT cybersecurity or OT networks in general are just at a far lower level of maturity today than their IT counterparts. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done in order to be able to bring that to bear. Starting with just being able to have full visibility of all the assets that are sitting in the OT environment and being able to bridge that information back to the IT space so you can have one comprehensive view of the entire security posture for that organization.
The accounting's just not there yet. Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. Saad.
Well, I believe the emerging technologies has been overwhelming all of us today in this room. However, the thrilling combination of AI, quantum computing, and the mobility is increasingly empowering the world in a way that we've never seen before. And it's becoming like the brain and muscles for making disruptions to businesses from both the public and private sector organizations. And I believe in the very near future, these technologies will be an infrastructure technologies as opposed to plugins or interfaces as we see today. However, the adoption of these technologies will lead to pushing more assets from the physical space to the cyberspace, creating so much opportunities for innovation and optimization, but in the same time leading to sometimes devastating risks and scenarios. So if we look at an example at the risks of generative AI, well, with good intentions, it can be the hallucination of the algorithms and analytics. But with bad intentions, it can be fabrication of a truth. So this is true disinformation. So imagine the consequences. And if we look at another example, which is Amazon model, we've seen live experiments of Amazon deploying robotics on the shop floors for doing the packaging and using drones for doing the delivery. So imagine the world today with an expanded view of this model, where clients and consumers browse the internet and market stores for doing the purchase, all the way to employing drones and robotics for doing the packaging and the delivery. That's a tremendous opportunity for innovation, but only if done securely and in times of peace. Otherwise, it will create unprecedented consequences if done insecurely or in bad times. Another angle to the adoption of emerging technology, and I think His Excellency, the Minister of Education, Al-Banyan, shed some light on this, is related to the impact on the paradigm shift of the skill sets that we need today. I believe decision makers today, they need to be prepared to make decisions at scale and speed at the same time. And the reason is very simple, because the emerging technologies is bringing so much material to the decision-making process. So we need to co-op with this level of complexity of understanding of the data and the advanced technologies. And that will be, I believe, also very impactful on the way we do the skill set development and the talent development today.
Thank you very much. Michael, we heard Saad there talking about everyone's favorite emerging technology. What challenges does AI and generative AI, which we've already been talking a bit about here this morning, present in the context of the global supply chain?
Well, I love AI. My academic career was in advanced analytics and evolutionary computations, genetic algorithms. So this is an area of passion for me, and I'm amazed at how this technology that was in labs and sitting in innovation centers within organizations have now propagated into the world, and the explosion of AI is amazing. It keeps me up at night as a person that worries about my clients' OT environments. These kinds of technologies are often adopted earliest by bad actors trying to be able to move up a very steep barrier curve that they're trying to overcome. And I think we're going to see some more incredibly sophisticated attacks that are going to come out, and many more attacks. So I think we'll continue to see more and more attacks on a year-over-year basis. The level of sophistication is going to increase, and there are going to be more coordinated attacks because the level of planning that an generative AI model would allow you is pretty amazing.
Thank you, Michael. Christoph, what would you add to that? And I guess if we think about solutions, which we want to get into now, is there an opportunity with AI in addressing some of these cybersecurity challenges if we kind of turn things on their head?
Yeah, we need to add a positive note to the AI threat, of course. And hoping that we are as fast as the bad guys to cope with new technologies and to defend ourselves, of course. And at the same time, AI is new and not new. Okay, so we have been using AI to track data, to do some preventive maintenance, to do some advanced analytics. What is really new is really the shock of generative AI of this year. And we have been saying for the last 10 years, hey, before you introduce a technology on the market or in an environment, so you check the risk before. For once here, so we just put a technology out there without having any clue about the risk that it can pose. So that's an interesting play. And then we are running behind the topic, but it's a major shock because, of course, it will transform every company on very standard elements like customer relationship, like R&D, like coding. So if you code, and Michael, you were saying that you were coding, so coding experience will be very different now with GenAI and GPT or Bard or others. But the key point with this innovation, with this opportunity for ourselves to defend our critical infrastructure, for developing new technology, my hope, and hope will not be enough. I think regulation will come strong here, and we see EU AI Data Act, but we saw also 2 days ago the US executive order for AI safety and security from Mr. Biden. So it needs to come with some guardrails. And innovation needs to embed these guardrails on security and privacy. In the OT environment, in protecting the data, because it's not only personal data, it's about sensitive operational data that we care about. This is about also taking care about impersonation, deepfake, or information manipulation. So we see a rise of perfect phishing back to awareness that raise the bar for every of our employee, citizen to be aware. And we need to guardrail this topic with regulation, hoping also that regulation will be harmonized between countries there. So a lot of hope, and at the same time, certainly an opportunity to create tech champion, tech firms in every location of the world, because AI adoption will be very different here and there. There is a sovereignty agenda in every region as well. Let's make sure the sovereignty agenda is not opposing with the benefit of AI everywhere on the planet.
I'll let you out on a little secret. I discovered some of the perils of AI. I use some software that transcribes my Zoom calls. So it just takes the voice and turns it into text and also backfills it with information, summarizes the call. What I didn't realize is that it summarizes, it transcribes all of the text even before the other participants in the call have joined the call. And after the call is over, it sends it to them. So we are learning as we are living when it comes to AI, which is very dangerous. So let's talk about the way forward, Saad. What do you think are the most important areas for us to focus on when it comes to ensuring the security of supply chains? And the big focus here at GCF is how we can collaborate to address these problems before they blow up in our face.
I think taking all these discussions and different views in mind, I believe for the way forward, we need to inject sovereignty in both streams, the stream of policymakers and the stream of industry players. On the policymakers front, I believe we need more robust regulations and international collaboration and info sharing. It's unfortunate truth today that the bad guys sometimes are more efficient in info sharing and collaboration than the good guys. And on the industry players front, I believe sovereignty is becoming an innate need for securing the cyberspace. And as we see today, more economical assets and items are becoming digitized, and they are being pushed from the physical space to the cyberspace. So the security of the cyberspace leads to the security of the economy, and therefore the prosperity of nations. So although these domains and notions are distinct, but their impact on each other is very intertwined. So I believe embedding sovereignty is the new logical step in the evolution of technology, all the way from the inception and design of technologies to development to the operations. And that will lead to the operational control and data provenance. And for tech companies, I believe the new logical mindset is to inject sovereignty as well into their solutions. Now, some of the companies have started this shift already. Cisco, for example, a few weeks ago, they announced their move towards establishing regions in other nations to cater for some of the regulatory aspects when it comes to the security. Amazon last week announced the establishment of a European hyperscaler cloud, sovereign cloud, for the European Union, which is separated from the Amazon public cloud. Another example also by Microsoft announcement in early October, where they said that they announced that they will make a sovereign version of their hyperscaler cloud. They will make it public and available to other nations by end of this year. So clearly there's a mindset, I think there is a need for a mindset shift to take companies toward the sovereignty. And if you reflect on the example of the cloud computing, for example, today the global cloud market is about 10% of the global ICT market, so that's around $600 billion out of the $6 trillion globally for the ICT market. And I believe the market share between the sovereign version and the public version for any tech offering is a zero-sum game. So what is changing is actually the distribution of the market share between the sovereign and the public version. And in light of this, I believe very soon we will start seeing the sovereign version of the hyperscaler cloud is the default version on the expense of on the public version. And the impact of this in tech companies is very obvious. I believe the way forward for tech companies is to inject sovereignty into their offering, because that's the way forward to sustain their businesses and maintain their market shares outside their home country. At the end of the day, this is a win-win to both ends of the spectrum of the supply. From the technology vendors, they will maintain their business, and from the consumer side, they will have a much better offering when it comes to the mitigation of risk and sovereignty.
And just very briefly, a clarification for me that I wanted to get to earlier but left aside. We heard the former Foreign Secretary of India, Ambassador Shamsaran, talking about, what we're really trying to do is wrap our analog minds around complex problems in the digital space. So just very briefly, what's the difference between solving a problem in the physical, real world, if you will, analog supply chain space and the digital space?
Well, I think, the challenges and opportunities into the global supply chain when it comes to these two spaces is very interesting. Well, in good times, when both spaces are functioning well, there are tremendous opportunities for optimization with respect to the operational of supplies when it comes to the cost, performance, and delivery. And this is as a result of the gained benefits of the integration between these two domains. And also, depending on the reliability of the building blocks of the global supply chain grids, of course, starting with the energy grid as the fuel for the rest of the value chain, all the way to electricity grid, logistical grid, and last but not least, the data grids as well. However, in bad times, imagine this intertwined relationship between these different domains across the value chain. The impact can be catastrophic. So I believe that's a distinction between the digital space and the cyberspace, because at the end of the day, it can be like few lines of code traversing the cyberspace, going multinationally, unchecked by border customs, can cripple the grids of critical supply chain in other places and sometimes maybe in other jurisdictions.
Thank you. Michael, question for you. And we heard Christoph there talking about how he hopes that we're faster at solving the problems that AI can present when it comes from the perspective of cybersecurity than AI is itself. So is that actually a real problem? Because if you think back to our plenary session, we heard Jose Manuel Barroso talking about how it took the European Union 9 years to agree on GDPR. And so they got that beautiful scale of whatever it is, 1.2 billion people. But it took a long time to get the standards. Do we have the standards in place when it comes to AI? And is the solution, like we heard from the former president of Estonia, that the private sector gets us there because maybe governments can't?
Well, look, we definitely don't have the policies today. I mean, policy lags innovation every day, all the time. And I think it's forums like this, like the Global Cybersecurity Forum, public-private partnerships that are going to be crucial for us to be able to create the level of policy needed. I absolutely agree that we need to be able to kind of bridge that gap between the way our analog laws and our digital implementations or innovations need to come together. All the things, as the president of Estonia said, right, we need to just agree that all the things that are wrong in the analog world are also wrong in the cyber world, and then we need to move forward from that perspective. So I think that there's a road to get there with better, more informed policy. I think the challenge that we run into is that we have to do it in this public-private partnerships. We have to be able to bring corporations, governments, globally interconnected forums like this together to be able to solve those kinds of problems.
Krista.
Yeah, and as we say in the supply chain, you are not alone. So you are not alone with your security posture, you are not alone with your suppliers, with your customer, with the cyber agencies, with the critical infrastructure. So I'm really advocating for more symmetry in that domain, meaning that we should collaborate with our suppliers in the way we collaborate with our customer. There is a very inefficient way of working or assessing cybersecurity these days is to send a security questionnaire. This is still happening. Okay, and everybody is answering a cybersecurity questionnaire for multiple customers, multiple suppliers, etc. So there is really a call for collaboration horizontally in the supply chain, and at the same time, roles and responsibilities on technology vendor, technology suppliers, and responsibility also of the operators or operational environment that are using this technology. So with digitization, as we saw before, and we saw also that during the pandemic, environments that should be locked down behind closed gates, etc., are just open for attackers, etc. So that's the first thing. So there is open opportunity in the technology play, as we saw. I had one of my engineers showing me that it was possible to reverse engineer a firmware or a software with AI. So it was at the same time really interesting and super scary. So I think we need to balance these two things together and innovate with this in mind, not to do a big mistake. And at the end of the day, that's why I value this forum, and I thank GCF and NCA for that. This is the perfect example where we need to collaborate on standards, on framework, on intercert when it comes to answer, really to harmonize. I see there is a session this afternoon on harmonizing the standards, to speak the same language, because when it comes to a catastrophic attacks or incident that we were mentioning, there will be a worldwide response to such an attack. We cannot hide behind a regulation or a standard A and standard B, etc. And at the end of the day, it's about trust in the ecosystem between suppliers to source securely some technology, operator, customers, agencies, really on three pillars. So one is security. Of course, we need to mitigate the risk of such cyber attack on critical infrastructure. The second one is on sovereignty, because we need to protect data of every citizen. And we need also to protect the intellectual property of every nation. And the third one, this is the third S, on survivability of resilience. Whenever things happen, and things will happen, or is happening already, we need to make sure that critical services are able to operate even in terms of crisis. So having the B plan ready before it happens is mandatory for all of us.
Michael, I'm going to give you the last word. Square the circle for me here, because we have sort of competing views. We heard from our panelists this morning that they're concerned about, our fragmenting world, polarized world, getting in the way of international collaboration when it comes to cybersecurity. And yet, we have a real world example, just in the last 48 hours, 40 countries coming together agreeing to not pay ransom in cases of malware. So how optimistic are you? And because we're about solutions, we just got 30 seconds, or I'll give you a couple extra seconds. What's the practical thing we can do to forge this collaboration, and what should we be working on?
Yeah. Look, I think it starts with the fact that we have to recognize that there are layers to this problem. You need local regulations and local solutions. You need regionalized solutions, and then you need global solutions. And they all come together and interplay at some level. I think what we've done is we kind of believe that we can operate as one global society. And I think that's great. And to the degree that we can make that happen, that's wonderful. But I think we also have to have regional strategies and regional solutions and local strategies and local solutions. The problem's too big to try to tackle all at once. And working both from the bottom up and the top down allows us to be able to align in the middle and get to a better end state at some future.
All right, Michael Ruiz, Vice President and General Manager for Cyber Innovation at Honeywell. Schneider's Christoph Blasio, in charge of cyber and product security, and CEO of Said, Dr. Saad Alaboodi. Thank you very much. Please join me in giving a big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you.